What's up, y'all? I'm Josh from Louisiana, and I want to thank you for tuning in to my recap of Feud, Capote vs. the Swans. In the episode Hats, Gloves, and Effete Homosexuals, we see Truman with a new boy toy. He tries to turn Kate into Babe Jr., and he also considers going under the knife as what appears to be a midlife crisis begins to bubble to the surface. As a reminder to everyone, this is a recap in which I will be going through the key events of the episode. So if you haven't watched yet, be aware that there are spoilers ahead. Hope you all enjoy. Now let's dive in. So Truman brings Kate to the salon where he has the hairdresser style her hair to look almost exactly like Babe, and then dresses her in a matronly Chanel suit. It was almost some kind of weird, gay, glamorous Frankenstein sort of thing. I mean, obviously Truman just wants Babe back, but if he couldn't have her, he would try to create a replica, I guess. They go to La Côte Basque and everyone is staring at Kate. Probably because here you have this beautiful young woman and she's dressed as though she's about to go scold everyone at the PTA meeting. Truman's telling Kate about how it's important as a writer to become very good at eavesdropping. He tells her you have to master the art of listening to who's right over there. But unbeknownst to Truman, he was actually being spied on in that moment because just a few tables over, Lee and Slim were doing some eavesdropping of their own. Slim considers throwing a Prosecco in Truman's face, to which Lee responds that he'd probably just lap it up. But the ladies gather their things and begin making their exit until Truman sees them, and he's elated because they are basically cornered and forced to speak to him. I mean, it's not like a call that they could pretend they weren't home for. But that didn't stop Lee, oh my God, my favorite Lee, from a deliciously venomous snap. She looks Kate up and down and says, "So a new swan, a cygnet in training." She then goes on to tell her, "I'd let my hair fall naturally if I were you, darling. You're not a daughter of the revolution." Truman doesn't have much to say to that, but asks Lee to have lunch. And with a look on her face as though he'd just asked her to go shop the blue light special at Kmart, she says, "Sure, Truman, sure. Call me." And just scowls at him. And even though I don't feel like we're getting near enough Callista Flockhart, she serves every single time she's on screen. Then Truman takes Kate to her photo shoot, and what's the first thing the photographer Dickie calls out? That she's dressed too matronly. But that wasn't really the point of this scene. Dickie straight up reads Truman. First, he tells him that he's wasting his time trying to sell himself to the movies. Then he tells him that the women really shouldn't have been shocked by what he wrote about them because that's just the type of person that he is. And then he tells Kate not to let Truman turn her into his little puppet because he's got ulterior motives. But I think what really got under Truman's skin was how Dickie was talking about how he's stuck in the past and essentially is becoming an old man because his next move was a little sad. In an attempt to reinvigorate his youth, Truman drags CZ out to Studio 54. At least I think it was Studio 54. But anyway, CZ's complaining, saying that she just wants to sit down, which, same girl. Don't take me out if I can't sit in a corner and quietly judge people. I'm not one for going out and raging. But Truman tells her that they just have to keep moving. And wouldn't you know, the next day they were on the front page of the Daily News. CZ is clearly upset because they both look haggard. And she tells him, "When you're my age, it's all about knowing when to exit." And Truman's response, "I still feel like I'm 30, so why shouldn't I act like it?" Which, sure, I think everyone should just live their lives and do what they want, but Truman just looked like a sad old drunk, desperately clinging to his youth. And then what I couldn't believe was that CZ told Truman, "You've sacrificed so much for this book, just finish it. You'll live forever." And I just couldn't believe that she was actually encouraging him to keep going with it. Now back to Kate, who is trying whatever she can to get Truman to stop drinking. I mean, this poor kid really looks up to him, and she's witnessing firsthand how he's just wasting away. They begin arguing because Truman had promised her that he would write, but instead, he was too consumed with the bottle. In mere hours, he would be going on a talk show, so he tells Kate, "I have to drink. I'm going to be nervous and I have to be on." And he really starts to scold Kate, who I think just cares about him, and she's grateful for everything that he's done for her. And the only way that she knows how to show that appreciation is to make him see how much she cares about him and wants him to be well. However, she tells him, "You're just like Papa. I thought you were different, but it's always the same, isn't it? It's all the same." And let me just say, John is not someone I would want to be compared to. And honestly, I'm just happy that we haven't seen him for a few episodes, because he's just a toxic, hateful, and abusive man. Then we've got Slim, Lee, CZ, and Babe at lunch. They're talking about Truman's TV appearance and how Gore Vidal is suing him, so Truman is hiding in rehab to avoid being served. Apparently, Lee is the one who told Truman about Gore being kicked out of the White House for being drunk and disorderly and rough-handling Jackie Kennedy. Give me the Lee and Jackie feud. CZ encourages Lee to come forth and clear Truman's name, to which she responds, "It's just two fags fighting. I'm not getting in the middle of it." Well, CZ was absolutely appalled at Lee's use of the F slur, saying that she should have some respect. And Babe as well says that it was uncouth to use that terminology. She goes on to speak highly of gay men, saying, "A homosexual won't desert you once you reach a certain age. If anything, they lift you higher." And I've got to say, I feel like that's true. One of the best friends I've ever had was an 84-year-old Sicilian woman, and she was honestly one of the most fabulous people I'd ever met. She and I would meet for lunches, dinners, drinks, and we would gossip well into the night. Actually, she'd gossip, and I'd just absorb everything she had to tell me about this fabulous life that she lived. And you know what? Honestly, that's probably the closest I'll ever come to being a lady who lunches, but oh well. But anyways, one more thing about Babe and CZ, because they go shopping for gloves and the clerk tells them they don't carry gloves anymore because they try to keep styles current, and says they could try Lord and Taylor. And I just found this one part so funny because it felt to me like the original version of "You Can Try Sears." Y'all remember from Mean Girls? Okay, so now Truman's in Palm Springs, drying out. He's on the phone with Kate, telling her it's the perfect place to get sober because it's too hot to go out anywhere. Of course, he's telling her all of this while he sips on a tumbler of vodka. But then, in what was pretty much a setup for a 70s porn, Truman has a handyman come out to fix his garbage disposal. A handyman to fix a garbage disposal for Truman. I don't need to go into the sort of details of what happens next, but if you haven't seen it yet, you can just about imagine. So now Truman has a new boy toy and brings him back to New York with him. Side note, I was told that this handyman Rick never existed and was just added to the show for a storyline. And to be honest, I could have done without the character. I mean, I don't feel like that particular character served any purpose other than to be used for more sex scenes. Then Truman's meeting with his lawyer to talk about the Gore Vidal lawsuit. So the attorney tells him that Gore has a good case for defamation, especially since Lee isn't getting back to him. See, this is a prime example of why you don't burn bridges. But everyone keeps telling Truman to just apologize to Gore and it will all go away. I mean, if that's all this man wants is a public apology, then just give it to him. And I honestly don't understand why Truman is so insistent on digging his heels into the ground. I mean, you've got publishers breathing down your neck wanting $400,000 back, and you're going to let this man take you to court and get even more in debt? It just doesn't make sense. But all money woes aside, Truman decides to meet with a plastic surgeon. Realizing that the drinking isn't going to stop and the vodka is literally sucking the life out of his pores, he decides to attempt getting a little cosmetic assistance. And the surgeon tells him how badly the alcohol is affecting him, saying that all the peels and treatments that they've done have basically been erased just because of how unhealthy Truman is living. But it isn't just the booze. Truman asks the surgeon what pills he's going to get after surgery because he's scared of the pain. Sure, Jan. Then he pulls out quite literally a small pharmacy worth of pills from his bag, which, side note, that was a real cute bag and I want to know where to find one. And finally, we are at our last scene and homeboy Rick has bounced. Apparently he had a fiance back in Palm Springs, and honestly, I feel like that's the last that we're gonna see of that character. But Truman's feeling down after this and decides that he's gonna get back to his writing. So there you have it, my rundown of Hats, Gloves, and Effete Homosexuals. What were y'all's thoughts? Do you think Truman was actually trying to recreate Kate and Babe's image? Do you think an apology would have kept Gore Vidal from suing Truman? And most importantly, do you think Truman ever got that lunch with Lee? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and be sure to tune in next week for another recap. Also, if you want to change things up and like some good Southern reality, check out my other recap of Southern Charm New Orleans. There I recap old episodes and do some cooking tutorials at the same time. Hope y'all have a great week, and I'll see you next time.